The ocean doesn't punch the shore, it returns again and again until the stone remembers who is stronger. And believe me, guys, the water is always stronger, the strongest element whatsoever. All right, all right, all right. March 2nd, Mars is entering Pisces. Welcome back, my wise astrology tribe. I am back with another cosmic insight, and this one actually going to bang the doors, okay? We're going to talk about Mars in Pisces. We're going to talk about the archetype of Mars, the archetype of Pisces. What does it rule? I am Lunar Gaze, and I am your co-pilot, Christina. So I hope you're going to give me a try and you will subscribe to my channel, hype my videos, and comment below. You can comment multiple times. I'm trying to answer back. If you're new to my channel, I'm really into history and historical parallel and, like investigative astrology. You will see I love asteroids and I love fixed stars, and I like to teach you as well while you are listening my videos. And I try to do all my readings based on the collective, the recent political, geopolitical scenarios. And also I try to actually cover all kind of base, health and personal perspective as well. And I talk about each individual signs as well. All right, so Mars is leaving the battlefield of fixed sign Aquarius, and it's going to enter a mutable sign, which is Pisces, right? And Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac. It's the ocean, the hospital corridor at 3 a.m., the prayer whispered when no one is watching, the warrior now trades steel for surrender, the blade becomes a paintbrush, the scream becomes a hymn. Mars is heat, Pisces is water. When fire going to enter the ocean, it's not going to disappear or get distinguished right away. It can hiss and it can turn into steam. It become invisible power. All right. So right now we're going to talk about how can it unfold for, in our life, for example. But also before I going to talk about that, I going to have to talk about, Mars itself and the mythology behind so we understand the archetype of Mars, right? And Mars is actually in Roman mythology, but in Greek origin it was Ares, and Ares was the unloved son, right? So Ares was the son of Zeus and Hera. But you know what is really, really interesting over here? Zeus actually despised Ares, despised him, didn't love him. And you know why? Because Ares didn't represent any kind of strategy or justice in war. He represented chaos and rage, the raw thrill of battle. He loved the noise of clashing swords and the smell of blood. He wasn't the general, he was the frenzy. The Greeks were uncomfortable with him. They saw him as reckless and impulsive. And Pallas Athena, the goddess of the strategic warfare, constantly outsmarted him. So, he even actually once get wounded and run back, crying back to Olympus. And, it's not exactly heroic. So the Aries energy symbolizing blind aggression and testosterone without wisdom, ego-driven conflict, and the fight response unchecked. Also in Roman mythology, it became a little bit like an evolution over here because Mars became unearthed father in Roman mythology, right? So they actually revived him here because Mars was not just the god of war, he was also agriculture, protection, masculine fertility, and the founding of Rome. And why? because of Rome was a military civilization, they respected strength and structure and expansion. And Mars became the father of Romulus and Remus, the twin founders of Rome. So that makes him not just a warrior, but actually a patriarch of an empire. So in Roman mythology, Mars actually going to impregnate Rhea, the Vestal Virgin, and from the controversial union, Rome was born, right? And Mars here going to represent protection of the homeland, military honor, disciplined aggression, generational legacy, masculine authority. Right? This is the same archetype, but two different cultural lenses and two different way to unfold. One culture feared him, the other built an empire in his name. And let's talk about actually Mars and Venus over here because they were lovers, right? But the affair between them, right? Aries. And they were entangled with Venus, Aphrodite, for a long while, and Aphrodite was and it is the goddess of love and beauty. But Venus was married to Vulcan. And he was a lame blacksmith god, but actually Aphrodite Venus chooses Mars because of Mars had passion, and the rawness and animalistic passion was felt like a little bit dangerous, but Venus really liked that. So the effort between them, represents like there is animalistic desires, and it's not polite. And attraction often leans toward fire and not safety because of, Venus, who was married to Vulcan, he could give him safety, but she didn't give her safety, but she didn't need it. So, they are cut in golden net and forged by Vulcan. The gods mark them publicly. All right. So, what does it symbolize? Passion exposes vulnerability. Raw desire leads to consequences, and sexual energy is inseparable from conflict. So, let's talk about Mars and the myth of the dragon because there is more to come. So, in several myths, actually, Ares slays dragons and monstrous beings as well. But sometimes the dragons are sacred. In one story, actually, Cadmus kills a dragon sacred to Ares. And as punishment, he must serve the gods for a year. So it's going to tell us violence has consequences. Even heroic aggression creates karmic death, no matter what. Mars is not moral, he's a force. And uh, then we also have to understand the psychological archetype behind Mars over here because, Mars is the soldier who fights before thinking, the lover who burns fast and leaves scars, the brother who defends fiercely, the rival who refuses to submit, the teenager slamming doors, the entrepreneur risking everything, the surging cutting to save life. It also governs libido, anger, initiatives, competition, survival instinct, and physical strength as well, and boundary enforcement. Mars is your no. Also, Mars is your enough, and Mars is also mine. Okay, so all right, but also the unchecked Mars could destroy and not protect. So we really have to be careful with this very bold kind of impulsive energy. Because Mars is also representing blood and circulation, especially in ancient cultures. Mars was tied to blood. And it was tied to it literally. Blood was kind of life force, and iron in the blood, the red soil, the red planet, it's not coincidence over here. So Mars also rules your iron levels, your inflammation, fevers, cuts, burns, and acute trauma. Anything to do with fast and hot, anything to do with immediate trauma. Saturn cleaves slowly, Mars strikes quickly. So that is the difference between them. And the shadow of Mars, for example, is when something to do with domestic violence, something to do with, violence against yourself, so suicide, warfare without cause, right? What we have right now, because we just attacked Iran, right? And that is actually really, there is, I don't know what's the cause of that, but it's simple, violent energy. Road rage, which I have like immerse road rage all the time, because I think 50% of people who drive is not supposed to drive. But also Mars is your adrenaline and also, domination as well. And especially in leadership. But Mars also could be cruelty, but it could be masked in strength. So you can see that right now around the world. How is it unfolding? The news is very depressing all the time. So in myth, Aries often loses because he cannot control himself. So we have to tame this energy, right? Because the untamed Mars or out of bone Mars, if you have that in your astrology chart or exaltation in Capricorn, you can feel that kind of, uncontrollable Martian energy when you have Rodri. I have Capricorn Mars, and that's why I feel like sometimes I can't shut up and it could turn against me. But the higher expression of Mars, and when it's get matured, it's going to bring in courage with resistance as well. And also, it is the disciplined athlete, it is the ethical warrior, the protector of the vulnerable, the firefighter running into the flames, the activist defending the oppressed, and the surgeon making necessary cut and saving lives. So Mars never going to apologize for existing, but definitely he must be guided because he can be out of control. You have to ask yourself during this time, if you are suppressing your Mars energy or if you overusing it, and do you fight because you're strong, or do you fight because you're afraid, or you need some kind of validation, or you controlling your desire? There is a lot of questions we can actually ask right now, because Mars lives in every one of us, in male and female. And you know what? He is the pulse, he is your instinct, the heat under your skin. And right now we're going to talk a little bit in Pisces because we have to understand Mars in Pisces and the archetype of that. And Pisces is actually the ocean before form, right? And that is, Pisces rules the 12th house, and it's ruled by Jupiter, which is the traditional avatar. And in modern astrology, in modern ruler is Neptune, right? And so it has two rulers, and Jupiter rules actually nighttime, nocturnal ruler of Pisces, right? And it's totally different, like in Sagittarius. So let's talk about the core myth of Pisces over here, Aphrodite, Eros, and their escapes, right? So in Greek mythology, actually, when the monster Typhon rose from the underworld to attack the gods, Aphrodite, which is Venus, and her son Eros, Cupid, fled. So they escaped, but to escape, they jumped into the river and transformed into two fishes. There is some version, guys, when actually they say the two fishes carried them to safety, but usually in mythology, and most of the mythology said they became the fishes actually, and they tied themselves together with a cord so they wouldn't lose one another in the chaos. So those two fish become the constellation of Pisces, and There is the layered explanation of that. So Typhon actually represented the chaos, that is the destruction, the primal destruction. And the river itself represents, surrender and transformation itself. But, it represents like survivors through adoption. So because they jumped into the ocean, they adopted and became a fish. And the cord itself represents spiritual connection. Pisces survives not by fighting like Aries, but survives by dissolving and adapting and escaping, also transcending as well. Uh, Pisces is not coward. Pisces actually is fluid intelligence. And the two fish symbol over here, which are swimming in opposite direction. One fish swims upward and the other one downward, one heaven and the other one into the abyss. So this they are not confused. This is actually dual awareness over there, as above, so below, as within, so without. So Pisces lives in the divine and the delusional, the compassion and the victimhood, right? Mysticism and escapism, faith and addiction. So Pisces could symbolize both, the bad and the good. It's typical yin and yang over here. And the fish are actually tied together, but it's not because of they by themselves they would be what is that weak, but they want to actually go through the suffering together and they don't want to lose each other's. They want to stay connected. And Pisces is the 12th house of the zodiac. It feels everything. It feels the suffering of people. Because it's also the mystic and the martyr. Yeah, Pisces could be very victimized and victim like martyrdom over here. And the modern ruler of Pisces is the ocean ruler, which is Neptune. But in Greek mythology, it is Poseidon. And Neptune also not really the water itself, but it's more like he is the storm in the ocean. He rules illusion and dreams and addiction, spirituality, propaganda. He rules also oil, gas, cinema, photography, filmography, also chemicals as well, and collective hysteria, divine inspiration, and psychic sensitivity. Sensitivity. Neptune actually has no boundaries. It dissolves boundaries. If you are Pisces yourself, like me, like I have my Sun and Jupiter in Pisces. In Western and in Vedic, I have Venus Jupiter conjunction in Pisces, so it doesn't matter. I do feel the energy of Pisces, and like I have absolutely no boundaries. Everybody can take advantage of me. So Neptune in mythology was very moody and temperamental and capable of floods and earthquakes and storms. And when he was angered, or like when he was angered, actually, he did not argue with anyone. He overwhelmed everything, and as I said, flooded with emotion. And Neptune actually blurring identity and desires and memory and truth as well. Just let me answer this phone call, just a second. Um, So going back to Neptune, because of course Martin had to call me, and doesn't matter when I start to work and record videos, somebody always have to bother me, either the neighbors, always get calls. But all right, I'm gonna try to remember where I have been, and I was at Neptune. Yes, so Neptune is definitely rules the unconscious, and I don't know what else. Neptune is very foggy. It's almost like the pink colored glasses on you when you don't want to see the truth. You want to stay in illusion, because of uh, you want to fall in love, and not necessarily with the reality, but the potential instead. And you also may believe the narrative because it feels good, and you want to put your head in the sand because you don't want to see the truth. And you can also sacrifice with Neptunian energy yourself for an illusion as well. But Neptune also governs, divine union and artistic genius, unconditional love and forgiveness, and spiritual awakening as well. Neptune is the veil. Neptune is the eternal womb. It is the afterlife. And the other one is obviously Jupiter, who rules Pisces, but Jupiter is the night ruler, of Pisces. So uh, it's totally different, like Jupiter in Sagittarius, because it has the nocturnal expression of Jupiter. So Jupiter is expansion, wisdom, law, and philosophy and faith. In Sagittarius, for example, but in Pisces, it is forgiveness and it is martyrdom. Uh, so Jupiter definitely mystical as well, but it's the monk in Pisces instead of the professor in Sagittarius, the mystic instead of the politician, the dreamer instead of the missionary. So yes, night rulership is matter, guys. It's very, very important because Jupiter by day in Sagittarius expands through seeking and exploration and philosophy. But in Pisces expands through surrender and compassion and spiritual union. It's not about knowledge like in Sagittarius, it's about faith and deep belief. And obviously both of them, Neptune and Jupiter, are equally important over here. Neptune is actually the atmosphere, while Jupiter is the belief. Jupiter says there is meaning in suffering, and Neptune says dissolve into something larger than yourself, and then you will be better. But together they would create mysticism, cults, mass movement, anything to do with ideological delusions, humanitarian waves, and artistic revolution as well. Because one going to expand, the other going to dissolve. This energy is going to produce saints and healers, right? In the higher form, but they have shadow form as well, and it could produce addicts and false prophets, and we see that all over in the world, right? Mythologically, Pisces is connected with flood or also baptism, obviously, the sacrifice, the lamb kind of archetype, Christ consciousness, anything to do with the healer, spiritual healer they are also wounded somehow, and the dreamer, the vivid dreamer, the one who is seeking for asylum, someone who lives in monastery, for example, the refugee crossing water at night, the artists who channel collective grief in their art. It rules endings because it is the last sign of the zodiac. It rules karma because it holds the memory, and it also rules sleep because it governs the dream space. All right, guys. And then the psychological expression of this is hypersensitivity and emotional undercurrents. It also difficulty to have boundaries, very, very deep empathy and escapism, savior complex, right? Spiritual devotion. There is a lot of guilt also and self-sacrifice in Piscean energy. And of course, intuition, because Pisces is the most intuitive sign of the zodiac, the psychic, the reader, the hypnotizer. And the mundane collective expression of Pisces is, the ocean and maritime issues, anything to do with oil spill, refugee crisis, hospitals, prisons, mental health institutions, secret intelligence, spy agencies, right? It is also charitable movements as well, pandemics, because Neptune rules viral infection and chemical leak, but also propaganda as well. So when Pisces is activated collectively, truth going to become fluid, because emotion spreads faster than logic. So there is maybe not necessarily they think they are or they know they are lying, but there is misinformation, right? However, Pisces is not weak. It's the ocean, guys. It is washing the shore and it's creating bends in the rocks and reforming the whole entire valley because of ocean is really, really strong. All right. So then what else we going to talk about? That the Mars archetype, Mars in Pisces archetype actually is the spiritual warrior who fights in the invisible, not necessarily meant to be seen, right, my dear? It is the soldier, actually, but the soldier who prays before going into battle. It's also the monks who prays for the enemy's salvation. It's the medic on the battlefield because Pisces rules pharmaceutical and the medic. So yes, it is also the poet as well, who writing poems, but maybe put a stone in it and sending the message with a poem through stone throwing. Um, so this is the Mars in Pisces archetype, right? So it is Mars representing anger, libido, survivor, and raw instinct, right? Action. And Pisces is compassion and illusion and sacrifice and mysticism. You know, action guided by feeling and anger that leaks instead of explodes. So, it's slowly leaking out the anger, desire that seeks spiritual fusion. Um, During this time, we have to avoid open conflict because it could turn actually very angry, very, very uh, bad for us, ugly for us. So if you were carrying resentment, you have to actually try to find an outlet for that. And it's not a passive outlet. Maybe you want to go to swimming, or maybe you have to do some kind of shadow boxing, but you have to allow your aggression to go away. And then also, if you feel guilty about, like something in the past, and that's why you are angry, or if you have any kind of um, anger issues, then definitely you can also use something with your creativity because Pisces is filmography, photography, poetic, lyrics, writing lyrics. Maybe you want to write about your fears, your angers, creating a music somehow right now during this, Mars in Pisces period in your life. So this anger not going to be, like very aggressive. It dissolves, and it could dissolve sometimes in self-sabotaging behavior right now, like addiction, like drinking or drug addiction. So we have to be careful with. But this is the time when I said we can seek for trauma therapist. Some person could enter to hospice work, for example, or you can become an underwater rescue diver. Also, it could be like you can become an activist who going to defend refugees or immigrants, for example, a musician who channel some kind of collective grief, and everybody is grieving right now, guys. There could be some kind of sexual expression as well, because Mars rules libido, and Pisces could become very romanticized as well. So, for example, you can idealize a person who is actually not really good to you, but you don't see them to be manipulative or aggressive because you romanticize the person. Sometimes it could be also very, very secretive or addictive to a person, maybe even stalking a person during this time. So we have to become maybe, to be a little bit more aware with ourselves. But it has a shadow side also, because it could be like falling in love with someone who is unavailable right now, or I'm gonna rescue this man and I fall in love with this man, but I keep picking up broken partners, broken people, especially if you have that Mars in Pisces in your chart. You can also confuse fantasy with reality as well. So, or you might going to be very codependent and giving yourself up in a relationship. Yes, and health and body wise, what is what is Mars is inflammation and immune flare-ups, especially in Pisces. It's something to do with immunity, with autoimmune diseases, with inflammation. And inflammation could be triggered by stress, right? Because we were talking about Mars rules cuts and muscles and acute trauma, but Pisces does rules the lymphatic system, sleep, addiction, feet, mental health, and the immune system. So, you can escape reality through medication, or you can have sleep disturbance during these times. You can have some kind of substance dependency as well, or some kind of mysterious fatigue as well, psychosomatic symptoms, or injuries involving water. So be careful with water injuries. And usually that's steam during your cooking. So, or you going to a hot spring and the water is really hot and you can burn yourself. So careful with that. And workplace, it is anything to do with healing professions, hospitals, mental health fields, music and film as well, photography, marine work, and humanitarian activism, charity organization. It could be also like spiritual warrior or undercover intelligence. You might become a spy during this time, right? So it could be, or maybe we're going to hear about Mossad and CIA and the connection to Epstein file, because that's what's going to happen right now. Why Mars is in Pisces, right? Because it's the passive aggressive. Pisces is passive, Mars is aggressive, the chronically avoidant, the victim, identified, addicted to chaos, addicted to trauma, to drama, unable to say no, and prone to burnout. That's the truth. All right, guys. But the mythic layer of that energy over here is the crusader, the religious extremist, and also the cult leader as well. So we have to be careful not to get, you know, surrounded by cult leaders and get into cults right now. All right. So how can it unfold for us? That's the question over here. So it could unfold obviously in different way, um, because of Mars going to seep into unconscious, and the unconscious over here is obviously Pisces over here. So ambition going to become longing, libido becomes maybe a fantasy, and the fight response become withdrawal. So what's gonna happen over here? So for example, a woman who could have been always angry and snapped and creating arguments suddenly gonna go quiet, and it's not because of the person or she going to become weak, but because finally recognize her own exhaustion and going to choose her battles. All right, so it could be also like someone who is really driven and wanted competition all the time, a man, for example. But right now, the person going to question himself, what does winning really means, because after keeping trophies and trophies, it feels nothing anymore. It feels emptiness. Um, and someone maybe who had really strong boundaries right now realizes those walls actually were fear, based, and maybe they can dissolve right now, and they can surrender and allow people to love them again. But also old grief can resurface in a dream. And, of course, it could affect us, like, not necessarily like a torment, but, something like, all right, I need to, face again this kind of grief because of somehow I buried that with the person who I buried. And right now I want to hear. So it's good it's resurfaced because of right now I'm capable to heal myself. And sexual energy also could shift from purely physical desire to emotional craving to your soul connection. You want to have pillow talks with your loved ones, not necessarily the animalistic raw sex and nothing else, but talk before and after, and hold each other's hand and look into each other's eyes for a long time, before have any physical connection. It could be also, there is a lot of people who has suppressed anger, and they might going to cry instead of, yelling. And they might be embarrassed at the beginning a little bit, but, it's going to be actually an amazing relief for so many. And also over here, so with inflammation and the immune system, because we were talking about that also, how it can unfurl, it definitely can flare up autoimmune disease. So if you have Hashimoto or Graves' disease, arthritis, obviously. So careful with, start anti-inflammatory, diet, and also you can put a little bit of ginger, turmeric, cayenne pepper if your blood pressure allows that. But also, nightshades. Maybe you don't want to eat eggplant and a lot of tomatoes, for example, because it could flare up inflammation. Or also, it could increase viral infection as well. And because of Pisces is the feet, so it could be like somebody sprained their ankles and there is water retention there. Or it could be like, circulatory issues, and because of the circulatory issues, there is edema in the body. It could also bring in sudden fevers, and fatigue. This is the time when we can have some kind of meningitis issues during this time. If it's accidents, then it could be water-related accidents, something to do with your shower, with the water is too hot. That could be, some kind of sleep disorders definitely coming in as well. And the geopolitical collective, issues over here, it's definitely the war is going to get escalated. I told you guys before, Pisces rules the water, Mars over there could be some kind of submarine war, or it could be also related uh, to something to do with war on water. So they're going to actually sink some kind of big boats. And, I remember right now because I was watching Candace Owen again, and a year ago he was actually uh, interviewing a survivor from the 19 um, it was on the Second World War, or before the Second World War. It was a flotta, which was American flotta, and actually got hit by Israel. And and that was a very, very, let me see, I have to check actually the Zoom. I have to stop it right now for a second because I want to give you the right information, not just talking over here. Just a second. So Resuming recording because I found it. It was the USS Liberty, and in the Candice Owen show, this guy who was a survivor said there was 298 people, and there was 25 FBI and CIA agent on that float. And when Israel hit this float, two-thirds of the people died right away, and they were sank, and only one-third of survived and got like 40. They had to wait. Let me say 27 hours to be rescued. So this is terrible. Yes. I just wanted to talk about that. But USS Liberty was the float, and it was actually 1967, guys. All right. So that's what we have to talk about over here, and the geopolitical issues, because of we will have a lot of issues right now with the wars, right? Military operations going to increase during this time. Israeli intelligence operation against Iranian targets, and you can see what's happening right now, right? And also we're going to have more hits on Syria and perhaps also in Iraq as well, but around the Middle East for sure. And there is also going to be, CIA-backed region missions, and it's not necessarily going to hit the headline right away. But lately I decided I'm not listening any kind of propaganda media, no CNN, no Fox. I have my individual resources, and I also going to listen independent media because I have enough from the lies, and it makes me sad and mad and cursing all day long, and I just don't want to be that kind of bitter woman, like a witch, like a bitch all the time. So I was like, okay, no matter what, yes, the news are sad, but at least I going to listen the right news, the truth. And even if the truth hurt, but I know how to, at least I have a chance to do something against. Um, so yes, that this is when you are, because Mars in Pisces is when you not necessarily always see the tanks, or everything is denial, everything is propaganda. There is no confirmation. They're not going to name officials, and we are waiting to because Pisces also prison and Mars is action. So we might going to see a few arrests right now with the Epstein files, because more is going to leak. As I said, Mars over here in Pisces leaking out. It's that is the base of Mars is being in Pisces leaking. It's not quick. It's leaking, right? Uh, so everything could happen underwater, as I said. So it could be literal, like submarine wars and issues like that. Also, cyber warfare as well, because it will intensify, right? Anything to do with cyber attacks, something to do with, the US and the NATO cyber responses. Right now, they really want to force a law in the US until Friday to surveillance us and to have everything in the position of the government. Whatever you say, whatever you do online, so you can become a target. They can arrest you based on what you are saying. If you are saying the truth, that's what they want. It's terrible. It's terrible mistake, and actually, yes, definitely. That is like Mars is in Pisces, could be some kind of secret CIA Mossad kind of cyber attack over here. Uh, but definitely there is gonna be also a lot of shadow of the Iranian war over here. They thought, and I was listening right now, multiple podcasters, they thought, Trump said, oh, maybe in 3 days we're going to end that. Then, oh, maybe 5, 6 weeks. It's draining the trillions from us, and it's not our war. It's nobody's war. It's not supposed to be a war out there. Yeah. So very upset about this. But there is also, some kind of humanitarian intervention, some kind of justification comes because it's Pisces, right? And Pisces also rules compassion and the martyr narratives as well. So you're going to see a lot of people get martyred, and mostly humanitarian workers, nurses and doctors. And we will feel and hear about, there is a Palestinian doctor who just saved life. I forget his name, but I'm always checking if they let him out from Israel prison or not. And obviously he been kidnapped, he been tortured over there, but maybe we're going to learn about that. He's already passed away. So we will hear, and its footage is going to leak out, which is going to be very disturbing. And quite frankly, guys, the Epstein file, because this war around, against Iran is the Epstein war, nothing else, but it's the Epstein war for Greater Israel. But what I wanted to tell over here also, we would not be able to comprehend the Epstein file because lately what I was reading and listening, and it's not conspiracy, it was in Epstein file, right? Maybe he was the bone collector, serial killer also because of the Zorro Ranch connection with this serial killer. Or also, they were talking about that. They were actually hunting these kidnapped children for joy and pleasure, like a sport, to actually shooting them. And it is almost like that Korean movie I always forget. And I was watching it, but it was so sad. Oh my God. I have to check again. I have to stop Zoom because I am talking, and today it seems like that Mercury retrograde in Pisces really terribly affects. Course, it's the Squid Game. So, but when oligarchy, when millionaires, billionaires has nothing else to do because every kind of, they have uh, nothing to accomplish anymore. They are bored, so they bid, have bidding on, haunting childrens and like shooting them just for joy. So when I was reading that, I was like, okay, I need some kind of break because otherwise, it could take a terrible toll on me. So I don't want that. So yes, there going to be definitely also justification, and there could be some kind of there could be like some kind of government, like for example, Slovakia right now said if Netanyahu enters, there is a moral obligation to, bring him to justice. So some kind of Western countries or, who defend actually democracy, they can bring some kind of war criminals to justice or Epstein, because Mars is also sex criminals as well, right? So could bring them to justice, or maybe because of there will be a lot of footage leaked, like out from Israel, who the IDF, for example, gang rape women and things like that, and then they might going to start to arrest those soldiers. It could be also a spike in suicide as well, because obviously, illusion, delusion, eternal womb, Mars is over there, suicide rate could go up. Uh, yeah, so that could be also a situation over here. But, the naval tension escalate as well because of Pisces rules the ocean and Mars is the conflict over there. So anything to do with the South China Sea tension between China and neighboring states, the US naval patrols near Taiwan, obviously, it could be an issue there. There could be a lot of shipping route could be attacked, for example, by Houthis, or because of Iranian could seize the oil tankers, or something to do with sinking ships, definitely, as well. Something to do with underwater cables, submarines, and blockades over there. We still don't know where is the Russian submarine. One of them is so deep down, and one of them is near Florida. and close to Cuba, but it's really, really close to South Florida. So it's a concern for us. And I don't like the fact, Trump has Mar-a-Lago. Actually, it's Key Largo, not Key Largo. I'm sorry, Mar-a-Lago is Lake Worth. So. So, he's very close to me. He's very close to us. And I don't like that fact because, Floridian over here could get in trouble. Also, because Pisces is offshore accounts as well. So we might going to find out, governors, government money going to offshore and, like they're going to show, how much money they have stolen. They have stolen from cancer research Pisces, right? Or hospitals or orphanages or humanitarian aid. They stole the money from there. That's why I think capitalism is really toxic, guys, because of, it could increase the gap between the poor and the oligarchy. And, it's also actually creating mass environmental crisis as well. And no matter what, I find it funny when a compassionate person talking like me who wants not necessarily equality, but I do want fairness and I do want to have the underprivileged, right? Because then, if you have them, if you shelter, if everybody has shelter, food and hospital and education, there is less crime. But obviously, that's not what the oligarchy wants. They want corruption and war and turns us against each others because that's the only way they can, keep their power. So that's the sadness over here. And so many people are so dumb and not willing to see or not willing to listen or open their mind. It makes me mad. You know what makes me mad? Not necessarily the podcast sometimes what they are talking about, but the comments below. Oh my God, sometimes I'm infuriated by that. Probably you are as well. Yes, but for example, it could be like Marcy's weapon, it's guns also, swords, guns, and it could actually bring up something, a hidden enemy, something from the shadow, and maybe they find fingerprints on the weapons and they can imprison people. So yes, definitely could be like some of them gonna get to prison, and I will be so happy for that. But there is also, films because movie photography, and we're going to have the what is that? The Oscar really soon in March. So there it's going to be a lot of movie gonna, for example, win Oscars, music or whatever, who shows the suffering of humanity. Humanity is suffering, guys. If you look around, 2 billion people totally starving. There is, like out from 8 billion people, perhaps maybe 2 billion who has decent life, but uh, not even, I would say, decent. So it's very, very low percentage of humanity who actually thrives, and they are over hoarding power and everything, and they are toxic. So yeah, that's very sad. But this is Mars in Pisces could leak some kind of drone footage, anything to do with smartphone recordings, anything to do with a whistleblower coming in again, and then they are like, okay, let's see, and we can imprison them because we see the suffering over here, but also in the festival, not film festival, but at the Oscar movies could win, but is showing the war as well. And anything to do with the martyrdom narratives going to get intensified because Pisces is the sacrificing energy. It's Christ-like. We're going to talk about Jesus Christ, and Mel Gibson actually have a new movie, and it's coming soon because he found some new books, and his new movie about Jesus Christ going to shake humanity, he said. So I can't wait to see it. Yes, but It could be also because of Pisces, could be also religious sacrifice energy. There could be some kind of extremist group which is framing violence as some kind of holy duty because they are the chosen one and they have to do it and they have to strike first. You know, those kind of people. And soldiers could be portrayed martyrs, but they are actually, uh, extreme violent murderers. Also, there will be a lot of civilian casualty, unfortunately, during this time. Yes, so we're going to see this rhetoric right now. And there is also going to be some kind of Christian nationalist rhetoric in the US politics or Russian Orthodox justification just for geopolitical moves, because faith going to become fuel. And I hate that because, Mars going to weaponize the beliefs in Pisces. That's what they do. That's what they always do. There could be also some kind of surveillance expansion as well, so as I said, AI monitoring tools, by Friday they want to actually have that in law to surveillance us, and I totally want everyone to backlash for this. Because it's going to be, like terror on free speech and everything. So um, Mars has to defend over here, um, and because Pisces could dissolve privacy, but Mars has to stand up and say no, and enough actually for example this kind of propaganda and this kind of surveillance. Definitely it could increase refugee crisis, it could intensify, because of floods, the everywhere the snow is melting, it could create flood, but it could also bring in, like, maybe they want to totally displace Palestinians, right, or Syrian refugees, because the Syrian refugees still unsettled, guys. Also, there could be something to do with Ukraine as well. And there will be more people from Venezuela as well, because it's chaos. Everything is chaos right now. All right, guys. What else? Veteran health, mental health of veterans could become central right now. The PTSD, hospitals, addiction, anything to do with unhoused vets on the street, and the veteran suicide rate also could go up, as I said, because of, there is trauma over there, PTSD. There is, they killed people for order, or there is like substance abuse of soldiers also. So there is going to be a lot of moral injury discussion over here, and definitely something to do with shelters, orphanages. It will be like leaking footages like the Romanian orphanage, how Erika Kirk, for example, prostituted those kind of orphans and sold for the military, right? Because it is master military. So it could come out the footage about that. I hope Candice going to really deep in the rabbit hole in this and find out everything. Um, so if I'm talking about financial market over here, and if we see the indications, Mars is something to do with aggressive trades, anything to do with defense stocks as well, and leverage risk, right? And Pisces rules also fraud and hidden money, right? Charitable funds, oils, and pharmaceutical as well. So something to do with, for example, maybe something to do with a military law, maybe going to be, or a military contract with Pentagon could get renewal. Uh, they can also start to fund some kind of naval technology as well, and cybersecurity contract for military, that's for sure. But that's the defense stocks over there. But anything to do with Lockheed Martin, which is the sticker symbol is LMT, RTX, which is formerly it was actually Raytheon, guys, but right now it's RTX Corporation, and something to do with the Northrop Grumman or something to do with general dynamics. That's what you have to see right now because they definitely could go up because of it is a dramatic spike with this because they are killing machines, right? So anything to do with that, or it could be something to do with oil market tension. Right now there was a they already stopping Iran, or they're stopping some kind of oil flow. They also burned some kind of oil um, uh, pumps in the Emirates and somewhere else, because there was bombing over there. So we're gonna have less oil, and then the oil market going to show some kind of tension. The gas could go up significantly. It could be something, even they going to sink some kind of oil. Um, what is that? Vessels, oil vessels. Yes, that's the right. Um, or floats, and then we're going to be in trouble. So what could actually be in trouble right now? Something to do with British Petrol, Chevron, anything to do with ExxonMobil. They could be because of right now we're going to have issues with oil. It's going to be seized. Also something to do with pharmaceuticals as well, because we're going to find out, there is a immune disorder, or there is a new pandemic, or, chemical get into the water and it could create some kind of outbreaks, or it could create some kind of toxicity and so right now we can see a lot of lawsuit against Pfizer and Moderna, Johnson and Johnson. Actually, because Mars is vaccination, guys, and I was reading also today, obviously, the what is that the vaccine, what the mandatory vaccination side effect is coming out right now. So we can see a lot of court case coming soon up with that. Yes, and there is going to be a lot of fraud investigation as well, and it's gonna surface suddenly something about offshore leaks, or something about charity mismanagement scandals, as I said before. All right, what else? No, you know what? That's it. I don't want to talk because I can talk like a lot about finances as well, and uh, but really, I don't want to. I might going to do another video about that, but I'm going to instead to go and talk about each individual signs over here. So let's start Aries rising, Sun and Moon. Mars is in your 12th house. You could quietly withdraw from a social circle after realizing you've been absorbing toxic emotional pattern. And you don't need to do a dramatic exit over here. You just disappear. You might even gonna ghost people, right? Because 12 house rules enemies, hidden enemies, hospitals, karma, its endings. So it could be also like a hidden health issue surfaces, something to do with autoimmune flare or sleep disorder, adrenal exhaustion, and it's going to force you to rest. You can also choose to be on a therapy, for example, and maybe anger management, confront anger you suppressed for years, or go to addictology right now. It could be also you uncover some kind of secret workplace politics that were operating behind your back and against you. You can be also called to some kind of volunteer work like hospital, prison, mental health, hospice, maybe, and you're going to feel like you are a spiritual warrior over here. Taurus rising, Sun and Moon, Mars is in your 11th house, which is alliances, group, social group, network, anything to do with your friends, right? So it could be like a friend going to reveal they've been speaking against you, and it was not on the nice way. You can also become involved in humanitarian activism, and you can become a leader in a group as well, or just take over, for example. You're also going to be able to cut tie with communities just like nothing. Their values no longer align with you, you just cut and that's it. You're never going to look back. if you want to invest, financially with some kind of collective or something to do with a software application, or perhaps, to create a foundation, a non-profit, you are capable to do that as well. If you are online, there could be some trolls coming at to you on social media. You could be charged, so be careful, right? Uh, Gemini rising sun and moon, Mars is in your 10th house, your career, reputation, the authority. Conflict with a CEO, with a boss, and it becomes really, really complex, and it could be openly aggressive as well right now. You are ready to leave a corporate job, go ahead, pursue something spiritual, like write some kind of healing work or become a spiritual warrior. There could be some kind of public controversy that touches your professional image. So careful, you can be set up for something. Your work in a hospital or anything to do with a film producer, film or creative field also could feel like burnout, right? Because you are overwhelmed right now. And if you are a politician, right now you might going to shift, your view of your supporting government, because if you are like, okay, I'm done with this, I need some kind of shift over here. So your ambition could be very, very aggressive, but also you can fall from grace. So careful. Cancer rising sun and moon, Mars is in your ninth house, which is your religion, beliefs, international issues. You're going to question your faith, your spiritual system. You wake up, you look around, and you say, wow, okay, this world is crappy right now. So, what did I believe in? How can I hold on to something which is giving me some kind of joy? But, whatever I have right now, it's not. There could be also some kind of legal issues tied to immigration or international travel. It could arise. If you are in university or high educational institution, you can actually face to some kind of issues with maybe payment, or like funding and sponsorship, something like that. So you might have to drop out from university for a while or take a year out. It could be also you're going to get into ideological conflict online, especially if you are having Rumble or YouTube account. You can be called to publish something which is very deeply personal and philosophical, but also it could be very assertive as well. It's almost like your beliefs going to become your battleground. Leo rising, sun and moon, Mars is in your eighth house. This is something like a soul surgery over here, because it's, psychological intensity, depth, and shared money and sexuality, all taboos here. So it could be some kind of conflict over inheritance and shared finances, prenup perhaps as well. Or maybe you divorced and, like alimony is not coming yet. Partners can hide some kind of death, and right now it's going to be revealed, and it's going to bring in conflict, maybe a gambling issue of the partner, or maybe some kind of sexual issue, you've been cheated on. Or you might have some kind of sexual awakening, and it could bring in some kind of confusion for you. Yeah, some of you might going to go through surgery. There could be also some kind of trauma which is going to expose therapy which is going to expose some kind of childhood trauma. If you were sex trafficked, or sexually abused, for example. And there could be also some kind of volatility in joint accounts as well with investment. Maybe your significant other spends a lot of money and you have to cut their credit cards. Virgo rising sun and moon, Mars in the seventh house. It is contract, open enemies, partnership, alliances. That is your VIP client, your subscribers. So this could be some kind of passive aggressive conflicts within your marriage, in your marriage. And also it could be like a business partnership going to dissolve right now, but it's gonna be quietly. They're gonna, ghost you. It could be also some kind of legal dispute, but It could involve some kind of emotional manipulation as well. So be careful. Make sure everything is serving you, and you are not being manipulated. Um, you might going to feel drained with your friends or with your significant other because maybe they are always angry and creating drama and chaos, and you just want some peace. And it could be also tension between you and someone really powerful, but most likely it could be some kind of legal partner. So you have to be really clear with your boundaries and not be codependent. Libra rising sun and moon is gonna happen in your sixth house, which is health, daily stress, and work. So there could be some kind of inflammation or immune stress flares due to overwork. Also, there could be some kind of gossip created by, uh, emotional friction because of your colleagues over there or your employees. Or you can leave a toxic job because you're done with that, or you can leave maybe a tenancy, or you can fire evict your tenant as well. You can begin a detox as well, and you need to be really disciplined spiritually. You know, you might have to go to the doctors and after doctors, but there is a lot of bureaucracy and it's going to really frustrate you. Be careful with your small animals because they can be hit by some kind or get some kind of accidents. All right, and then Scorpio rising sun and moon Mars is in your fifth house, guys. Creativity, romance, and children. There could be some kind of romantic fantasy that collapses, right? Something to do with a child also could bring in some struggle, and your child going to need support. Also, if you feel there could be a creative project which was driven spiritually, but it might go into collapse as well because you feel like you don't have the muse, or you are not capable to edit your photography or something like that because Photoshop doesn't work right now. It could be something to do with risky investment also, especially if you have speculation and speculative businesses, and the market is really volatile. I told you guys that's going to happen from February 20th. For 6 weeks after that, we're going to be in better place. And there could be also some kind of pregnancy related concern or fertility themes could arise as well. So maybe you had a surrogate, but right now the surrogate doesn't want to have your baby. Some kind of vulnerability over here. Sagittarius rising sun and moon, my fellow Sagittarian, it's in our fourth house, family, homeland security, and real estate as well. Family secret could surface, and there is also going to be definitely tension in your household, and it could increase right now, fighting with your children, fighting with your significant other, anything to do with real estate, and it could be tied to water or coastal areas. Either it could fluctuate or it could go underwater, so it could have some kind of flooding issues over there. There could also some kind of either nostalgia or some kind of unresolved grief coming back to you somehow. A parent could get hurt during this time because Mars, in Pisces, or some kind of a parent could go to hospice for some of you. Uh, but also some kind of political event also could affect your sense of homeland security as well. So yeah, that could be an issue there. You might want to sell the house, but right now the market is not right anymore for you to sell it. Capricorn rising, sun and moon, Mars is in your third house of sibling, local issues, communication, marketplace, niece, nephew, uncle, aunt, your car. So your car, actually careful with speeding, and it could be also something with oil and brakes. So your brake oil could be checked. It could be also conflict with a sibling or with a neighbor coming in. It could be also something to do with misunderstanding with something with uncle or aunts right now. Um, they misunderstood your text. And it could be also something to do with your neighborhood. There could be, a shooting in the neighborhood, or it could be like some kind of flooding in the neighborhood. And Mars is very aggressive, so it could be flash flood for someone. You can also get involved with investigative writing or investigative medium. You might want to just, become an investigator as well. It could bring in some kind of minor car accident as well, so transportation issues or near water issues, as I said. When you hydroplane on the roads because of Marses and speeding, it could bring that on. Definitely your words going to become weapons. Aquarius rising, sun and moon. It's going to happen in your second house. I'm almost finished, Matan. It's going to happen in your second house, which is your morals, values, it is money, it is your self-worth, the money what you earn. It is your sidekick jobs. And over here, you might going to experience some kind of sudden spending. It could be very impulsive and very emotional. You maybe want to give to charity and it's a bigger amount because you are very compassionate and you are grieving for the world. And also it could be like some kind of, and some of your income could connect to hospitals or art or, spirituality. It could increase during this time. But be careful with fraud because there could be also some kind of fraud coming to your way as well. As I said, they asking money because you are very compassionate to help the refugees, and you give and then they withdraw a lot of money from your account. Uh, it could bring on also arguments over, shared resources, where to invest. If you want to buy a property overseas, and there could bring in some kind of argument with that. And it could actually also, you are questioning right now your worth, and you are like, okay, I'm doing something spiritual and healing. Should I actually ask a higher salary for this? It's gonna be something very moral in you. And yeah, very, very moral. Pisces rising, sun and moon, my last but not least, my beautiful Pisces. Uh, little mermaids, my intuitive beauties. Mars is in your first house, which is identity and anything to do with personal drive, with your body, with your mask. You feel burst of anger, and sometimes it's even going to surprise you. You're gonna curse, maybe you're going to be like maybe even arrogant and very, very impulsive. It could bring in some kind of inflammation, physical inflammation, or some kind of iron deficiency as well. You might going to change your appearance and you redefine your identity, but it's going to be a quick decision, but it's going to be more romantic, very Piscean. Uh, but also useful. Mars, short hair and red hair, or like some crazy change in your appearance, and you're definitely going to stand up for yourself and for your loved one the way you have never have done before. Uh, you can actually start something like a martial art, a swimming, or something to kayaking, something with ocean-based sports, right? You become the warrior in the water, Pisces. So that's what's gonna happen with you. Maybe you are cleaning up the ocean and you are fighting for the ocean or marine lives. All right, guys, thank you so much for listening, to being here with me, to sharing, to subscribing, to commenting. Let me know how did it work out for you. I really want to know about that. What do you experience? What I haven't seen? Let's discuss that. Thank you so much and talk to you soon. Bye for now.